Great Sabbath day, this 15th day of the third month. Today's study is going to be on the morning experience. It's part one of a series that I'm going to do on the morning. These are going to be the empirical witnesses on this part one. And let's take a look at what we're going to see in our empirical witnesses on this video. All right, we're going to look at the three twilights of morning. Then, of course, the moon. Then we're actually going to look at the two bright lights of the wandering stars, Jupiter and Saturn. Then we're going to look at a witness from little or no light between the two first twilights to the third twilight of civil twilight. And then we're going to look at Vega, which is the fifth brightest fixed star in the sky. And then the light from the sun is going to be another empirical witness. Then more light as you get into civil twilight. You can see more. You can actually read at that point in time. Then we're going to look at the actual sun as a witness. And then we're going to take a look at different birds throughout them twilights and into the beginning of the day. And then the shadows, of course. The shadows not only from the sun, but also from the moon. And I was quite surprised to see the shadows even up to the 8th day of the third month, which was a less than 50% illuminated moon. So I was quite impressed that the shadows were actually able to be seen at the third twilight. All right, so through Luna SoCal here, we have the astronomical times of our, we have three twilights, astronomical, nautical, and civil. 4:27 a.m. to 5:06 a.m. here for our area is astronomical time. Nautical is 5:06 to 5:41 a.m. And then civil is 5:41 a.m. to sunrise at 6:10 a.m. And again, this is for my dome area, or mine and Tanya's dome area, so everybody's times will be different for your area. This is just for me and Tanya in this dome area, so don't go by these times for your area. This is just for Tanya and I. So if we look at the meaning of twilight here, and Merriam-Webster gives us the definition: the period or the light from the sky between full night and sunrise, and then, of course, between sunset and full night. So we're going to look at the between full night and sunrise. The astronomical twilight, which is the darkest twilight there is, we're going to look at that on the last 2 days of this study, which are going to be the 7th and 8th days of the third month of this month. All right, so nautical twilight at 5:13 a.m. on the second day of the third month, which was a Gregorian day of Sunday, June 23rd. This is what the moon looked like here. And then, of course, we got Jupiter here, and I enhanced my the light from my camera here on my phone to where I could actually pick up Jupiter. If I didn't, you wouldn't be able to see it here. I could physically see it with my eyes, but you wouldn't be able to see it with my phone without it being enhanced. So again, this is Jupiter. This is at 5:15 a.m. on that same day. Again, nautical twilight at 5:17 a.m. This is a shot of my app on my phone called Skyview. So Skyview is a pretty neat app to help you find different things. But as you can see here, Saturn and the sun has just been passed up by Taurus, and Jupiter is actually in the constellation of Taurus. Then at nautical twilight at 5:25 a.m., as you can see here, you can read the top of the page, but you kind of have to strain your eyes to be able to see the bottom of the page, and you'll see here in a few minutes, or a few about 2 or 3 slides, which are a few minutes to get to our civil twilight. You'll see that this same page will be able to be seen on that second day of the third month. Here we got Vega, which Vega is, this is again at nautical twilight. Again, I enhanced the video to be able to, the light in my phone to where I could see Vega better. And I could actually see Vega even after civil twilight. It's the 5th brightest fixed star. It's not a wandering star like the so-called planets, but it is the 5th brightest star as far as being a fixed star in its circuit. So you can still see it at nautical twilight, and we're going to have witnesses that we can see it at civil twilight also. All right, civil twilight here, we've got the same day. This is right before the sun appears at 5:42 a.m. Again, civil twilight, and that same page from earlier, you can see it's you can actually read the paper now without straining your eyes. And then civil twilight is the moon here, and as you can see, this is the first day was new moon day, which you could see the moon barely above the horizon. At that point in time, it set just a few minutes after the sun rose. The first day of the month, which was new moon day for the 3rd month. So this is the second day, and as you can see at 5:44, it's still viewable. Then we have the sunrise at 6:10 a.m. and this would be the 3rd month's 2nd day. And this sunrise 1 minute later of the moon. Again, you can barely see the moon there. Once the sun rose, it starts, the light intensity of it dissipates away. And then we have sunrise 6 minutes later. So from the time that my actual sunrise begins, it's about another 4 to 5 minutes before I can actually see the sun in my area here, just due to the hills and the trees off in the distance. We've got tall pines in this area, and plus we have this hilly conditions. The hill I live on is basically 400 feet above sea level. So there's other hills around here. I think the highest hill in this area is around 600 feet. So again, it takes about 4 minutes to 5 minutes before I can actually see the sun after the actual sunrise. Now we're going to look at the twilights on the 3rd day of the 3rd month, and it's on the Gregorian Monday, the 24th of June. So here we have nautical twilight. We got here Jupiter at 5:13 a.m. And then at 5:15 a.m. we're starting to see the light from the sun. And I wanted that bird you were hearing there was a whippoorwill, and if you go out, I don't know if you have whippoorwills in your area. It just depends on the area that you live in. But here, a friend of mine told me that they're called nighthawks also. And believe it or not, that whippoorwill will totally stop by the time it gets light enough where you can read or see clearly, like civil twilight is, that the whippoorwill will no longer make any noise. So again, this is at 5:15 a.m. and was considered nautical twilight. Again, this is the moon. There's your whippoorwill. All right, so the whippoorwill was still sounding at nautical twilight. And again, it's civil twilight, quite a bit brighter now at civil twilight, 5:43 a.m. And this is the moon at civil twilight before the morning before the day began on the 3rd month, 3rd day. All right, civil twilight, again, you can see, it's legible to read at 5:44 a.m. You can read at civil twilight. Civil twilight on the moon at 5:45 a.m. And you can hear the daybirds there in the background. So the whippoorwill, the nighthawk, is dissipated. He's disappeared. And now you can just hear the daybirds beginning to sound. All right, this is at sunrise at 6:10 a.m. This would be the 3rd day of the 3rd month. So this would be the beginning of the 3rd day, 3rd month. This is 1 minute later of the moon. And as you can see from the 2nd day, the moon's quite a bit higher in the sky. And then we got sunrise 4 minutes later. So you can see off in the distance there, you can actually see the sun, the luminous body of the sun right here. So that was 4 minutes after sunrise at 6:14 a.m. Now we go on to our fourth day of the week. That was the Gregorian day of Tuesday, June the 25th. And we're going to look at the different twilights, just the nautical and civil right now. So here's nautical at 5:08 a.m. You can see the light from the sun off in the, that would be kind of east, northeast area of my sky. Then we have Jupiter, nautical twilight, and Jupiter was more off to the east. There, it's in a different quadrant of the sky. Then we have nautical twilight of the moon, and again, the moon's quite more substantially up in the sky. I never did figure out what these two lights were over here. I didn't even want to guess, but I would imagine it's a couple stars or some wandering stars. Nautical twilight again at 5:14 a.m. of the moon. And I don't know what we were hearing there, but possibly it was a whippoorwill in the background. Then interesting here, even on the fourth day of the month, the moon is waning away. And it's still casting off a light. So this is the northeast area of my home over the roof line. And this is just, again, my camera doesn't pick up very well. So I did enhance the video. That's why the pixels are so large. But as you can see a fine line across here of my roof line of the house. And this is actually an outer porch area. So, but you can see the outline of my body there. And that's on the fourth day. So quite a good shadow you can see. With your naked eye, you can see it very easily. Again, nautical twilight. That's my little banty rooster. And your rooster starts sounding even actually at astronomical twilight. So even, there we go. That's my bigger rooster there. But anyway, those guys sound off earlier in the morning than that. Once they start seeing the light from the sun, they'll actually start crowing. So they'll start crowing in that twilight area of the day, and it's possibly before. So I didn't go out any earlier than 4:30 in the morning, my time here, or my mankind time here in this area. So that might be another experiment that I want to go out and experience and just see when the roosters start crowing. That's civil twilight. As you can see, again, it's quite a bit lighter there. That's at 5:44 a.m. and that's approximately 25 minutes before the sun appears. And you got the moon again, quite more up in the sky here on the fourth day. And at 5, there's the roosters again. And you can hear the day birds there. Off in the whippoorwills are not making any noise anymore. All right, well, now we got sunrise, and this is 1 minute after sunrise. This would be the beginning of the fourth day, third month, at 6:11 a.m. And then we got sunrise 2 minutes later of the moon. And then we got sunrise 5 minutes later, and as you can see here, we're starting to see the sun here in the middle of the screen showing up. So again, 4 to 5 minutes later, I actually can see the luminous body of the sun, and not just the light from the sun. And I don't know if you could hear that, but that was doves. So doves tend to start making their cooing noise after the sun appears, or after sunrise. That's what I've noticed, or at least what I experienced. I didn't notice that sound until after the sun appeared. So the doves start making a sound then. So that's quite interesting, I thought, to find out. All right, now we've got the fifth day of the third month. It's going to be the Gregorian day of Wednesday, June the 26th. and sunrise at 6:11. So the day doesn't, based on what I understand and where I'm at right now with my understanding, 6:11 is when the day begins, but we're going to look at the twilights before then. So here's nautical twilight at 5:08 a.m. and that's before the day began. And here's the moon at nautical twilight at 5:09 a.m. So there's your whippoorwill and your roosters, and none of your day birds are sounding yet. So again, that's another great witness is your birds themselves, that you can recognize what time of the morning it is. It's nautical twilight time, so it's that second twilight of the morning period. All right, again on nautical twilight, 5:13 is again, this is a corner of my house facing, this is almost facing north, pointing toward the north, but I just want to get a shot of it. You could easily see it with your naked eye. I just had to enhance the video, the light in my camera, to be able to see this. So that's why you get such large pixels there again. All right, so civil twilight. Interesting here, even at civil twilight, even at the brightest, this is the brightest twilight there is. This is the last twilight before the day begins. And you can see here, you've got the shadow of this leg here coming across. And then you got this portion of the stand. Again, this is the 5th day, so the moon is moving. It's moving from the right to the left here because we're kind of facing off to the south side of my house here, kind of pointing that way toward the south. So anyway, so we got the moon coming more over, so you got the shadow coming across of this exercise equipment here. So that's on your 5th day. So even at civil twilight, the shadow of the moon, even on the 5th day, it's waning, guys, and the moon was bright enough to still cast a shadow. I just find that fascinating on this experience that I had during this week. All right, here you have civil twilight at 5:43 a.m. right here. Again, it's getting quite bright off into the northeast area of where the sun's light is coming from. Now civil twilight at 5:44. There's the moon. Again, this is kind of facing off that south direction because here's my roof line, and this moon on the 6th and 7th and 8th days are going to move on over here to the left. So it's been moving gradually across the sky each day to the left here. So and another thing about the waning part of the moon, you're always going to see that on the first 14 and 15th days. Probably not going to see it the first 14 days just because when it gets closer to what they call a dark moon, there's about 3 days there that you're going to have a hard time seeing the moon off in the east with the sun in the morning time especially. So anyway, I was not able to see it yesterday during our 14th day of the month. Today is the 15th day of the month, but on the 14th day of the month, which I believe the moon supposedly went dark at 5 o'clock yesterday evening, I could not see the moon at all over in the east. I tried my best. I took quite a few minutes trying to find it, and I couldn't find it. So anyway, just it's interesting for you to go out and find out where your moon is. You're always going to be able to see the waning. The moon in the morning is always going to be waning. So anytime you see the moon in the morning, it's going to be waning, and anytime you see the moon in the evening period of time, it's going to be waxing. So all right, so here we go to our next slide. All right, so listening to a few day birds there, even my rooster and a rooster off in the distance there you could hear. And then, of course, the day birds, and this was after civil twilight. Then we have sunrise that happened on began our 5th day, and this is 1 minute later than what was on my supposed sunrise here. And then we got 2 minutes later where the moon is, and as you can see, it's quite a lot further up in the sky, and we had a little bit of cloudiness going on this day. And now we got sunrise 7 minutes later, so you can see the sun quite more, the luminous body of the sun quite substantially more, and this was definitely our day had began 5th day of the 3rd month here at 6:18 a.m. And with that, just a minute later, I went over and just on this particular part of my house, I wanted to get a shot of the shadow of the sun, so you can see the shadow of the sun. And the reason I did this, I'm going to take some other pictures of this same area after sunrise and show you that even on a lightly cloudy day, that you're not going to be able to see a shadow. If the sun is so much as covered by a cloud, you're not going to be able to see a shadow at all. So at this point in time, there was no clouds between me and the sun, so it was quite clear, and you could see a prominent shadow of my body there taking a picture of that part of my home. Now we're going to our 6th day of the 3rd month. That would ended up on the Gregorian day of June 27th, Thursday. And we're going to look at the twilight periods first before our day begins. So this is nautical twilight, and this is a shot of Vega. So again, I enhanced the light on my camera where we could see it. But this is at 5:10 a.m. on the 6th day of the 3rd month. Again, nautical twilight. Jupiter again at 5:11 a.m. Moon at 5:11 a.m. Nautical twilight. And of course, you got quite a bit of shadows at 5:12, and even on the 6th day, look how bright. And again, this is my camera, so I did enhance the light on it to help, but with your naked eye, you could see the shadow very well from the moon. And this is already the 6th day in the moon of the month, and the moon is waning already 5 days past its being full or turning full, or actually starting the 6th day of it turning full. Nautical twilight. I don't know if y'all could hear that. I could hear the whippoorwill off in the distance there. And we got civil twilight. Now, real quickly, I just want to point out, this is just a line in my concrete, so this is not a shadow. The moon is up in that quadrant of the sky toward that direction. But if you look back here at these pots, these clay pots here, you can see it's even at civil twilight, it's casting shadows. And even off of this compost drum here, you can see it's casting a shadow. So that moon's up in this quadrant of the sky over here, and you see it's casting that shadow. So this line here is not a shadow. This is just a mark on my concrete. So just want to let you know. But if you look at these other items back here, you can see the shadows even after civil twilight. So the moon, even on the 6th day, is casting a shadow, even at civil twilight. All right, civil twilight at 5:44 a.m. This looking off in the distance, looking at the light from the sun. All right, civil twilight, that's the moon. Again, even at civil twilight on this day, we had a cloudy day, so we were, when it was clear and no clouds, we were actually seeing those shadows that I just showed you a couple slides ago. All right, so we got some daybirds, a little bit of daybirds, my rooster going off there, and that was the area where the moon was up in the sky at 5:45 a.m. It's civil twilight. All right, civil twilight at 5:50 a.m. Just wanted to show the sun has not appeared above my western horizon, and of course it's not going to be casting a shadow. But of course we saw earlier that the moon, even on the 6th day, was casting a shadow on the other side of my home. All right, civil twilight. We got our day birds there making noise at civil twilight. So it's very interesting. You don't really hear them day birds until that time. It's approximately around civil twilight, where you can basically see well enough to read. And I would imagine these day birds, since they fly, they need enough light to be able to fly through the sky and be able to see without running into anything. So they start making their sound during the civil twilight. And this was the moon well above the horizon there at the sixth day. All right, sunrise 1 minute later. So this was the beginning of the sixth day of the third month at 6:12 a.m. A couple minutes later of the moon, we've got some cloudiness going on a little bit there. And then sunrise 2 minutes later. Here's my rooster there at the end, and the day birds. So this was sunrise 2 minutes later. Start of the sixth day, third month. And then 5 minutes later, of course, I can actually see the sun. After 4 or 5 minutes, I can actually see the luminous body of it. Now we're going into our seventh day, which was the Gregorian day of Friday, June the 28th, 2024. And these last 2 days, we're going to look at astronomical, nautical, and civil twilight. So these are the last 2 days are the only time that I shared astronomical shots here. So let's take a look. All right, so astronomical twilight at 4:31 a.m. You can see I enhanced the light on my camera. That's why the pixels are so large, just to be able to show that there was some light going off in the distance. Real quickly, would like to say, though, there is a larger, about 100,000 population town, about, as a crow flies, about 35 to 40 miles away off in the distance. So it's quite possible I'm picking up the artificial light of that area too. And again, I haven't got up early enough or went out late enough in the night to look over that way and see if it's just that town, the artificial light of the town showing. But even at astronomical twilight, what they consider twilight would be, you're going to see some light source from the sun. You're going to start seeing the first inkling of the sun rising up. So if you've been out early to go hunting or anything like that, a lot of hunters will recognize when they see the first portion of the light. They go out when it's totally dark, and then when it starts, the sun gets close enough to them, it starts to show light off in the distance there. All right, astronomical twilight. I want to just real quickly show Jupiter here. It's right at the horizon, or just above the horizon, at 4:37. And at 4:38, we can see it. We can actually see it through another portion of trees there. Could actually, and again, I enhanced the light of my camera to even be able to get this shot. But this was actually right above where the sun was coming up. So it was basically came up in a little bit different quadrant than the other pictures I was getting before this. So again, this is astronomical. My nautical twilight of the Jupiter was from different areas of my front portion of my home. All right, astronomical twilight again at 4:39 a.m. Even on the seventh day, guys, look how much shadow. And again, I enhanced the video of the light on my camera, but you can see here, even with your naked eye, you can see a prominent shadow here. Of course, this is me taking a picture, and this is that same roof line on the northeast side of my home here, that porch area, porch roof area, showing a shadow. Now we got astronomical twilight. Now this is the southeast side. This is where the moon is, and this is the moon casting a shadow on the southeast side. So this is a pillow that holds up my patio here. This is the compost barrel here. We got some pots with some plants in it here, casting a shadow. Again, this is the first twilight, so this is a darker twilight of all the three twilights. This is the darkest one at 4:45 a.m. Now, nautical twilight, as you can see here, I haven't enhanced the video here, and you can see much more light from the sun here at 5:09 a.m. And again, I did not enhance the light here, and as you can see, that same area of the roof on the northeast side of my house, you can see the shadow cast from the moon on the southeast side of my sky here. And then I did a little bit of shaking here, but this looks like these are asteroids or whatever they falling stars here, but this is actually Jupiter. So I just twitched when I actually shot this picture. Didn't realize it because these are the lights around our pool here, making this looks like music notes, don't it? So anyway, this is Jupiter at 5:10 a.m. Then we got nautical twilight again, guys. This is 7th day. This is the moon is nearly at it's almost less than 50% bright, so it's right there. I'm gonna give you some shots, some zoomed in shots of it on the 7th day here toward the end of this video. But here we have that same pillar, that compost drum there, and those plants there at nautical twilight. Now we got here nautical twilight 5:11, and here's where I actually got Saturn, a shot of Saturn. So that's the only time that I actually recognized it in my picture, that Saturn was right there with the moon side by side. And this is again 3rd month 7th day, 5:11 a.m. and 2 minutes later. So on that second twilight of nautical twilight at 5:13 a.m., you got those whippoorwills, the nighthawks going off, and then of course you got those roosters waking everybody up in the morning. Nautical twilight at 5:14 a.m., we got Jupiter off in the sky there. And nautical twilight got Vega here. Again, I didn't enhance the light here. This is at 5:15 a.m., so you can see Vega quite prominently in the sky, especially with your naked eye. And I could even see Vega even in the civil twilight area. So you had to look real good to see it, but you could see it with your naked eye. And I don't have the best vision there is, but you could see Vega even after civil twilight. All right, civil twilight here at 5:44 a.m., quite a bit brighter here. All right, again, civil twilight. So y'all remember that shadow in the northeast? I put these blue lines here to kind of help you see it, but right here in the middle, that's the shadow. That's the shadow from the moon. This is the 7th day, guys. And even at civil twilight, the sun is going to be up in like 25 minutes where I can actually see the body of the sun. But here it is. You can still see the shadow. On the camera, it's harder to see, but with your actual eyesight, your eyes, you can see it very easily. All right, civil twilight again at 5:45 p.m. a.m. I mean, you can read the paper very well. And again, that compost bin here, that barrel, we have the between these blue lines. If you look real closely, you can see the shadow. The sun's off in the kind of southeast area of the sky there, and it's at 5:45 a.m. on the 7th day, guys, and it's still casting a shadow. So it still has enough light to cast a shadow. I'm not even able to get a shadow off the sun at this time, but I'm able to get a shadow off the moon at that time. And civil twilight again, this real quickly, this mark right here is just a mark in the concrete and stuff, but I just still wanted to share this picture here because you're going to see a little bit of the shadow. This moon's off in this it's higher up in the sky. It's working its way back across the sky toward the east each morning. So anyway, you got this shadow here. This is a shadow. This is not a shadow here, but this is a shadow here. And just wanted to share that with you there. That's at 5:46 a.m. All right, civil twilight at 5:46. There's that moon. And again, this tree, this is off toward the east from where the moon is. And you're going to see on the Sabbath, which is the 8th day, which will be on here a couple slides from here, you're going to see that moon closer to this tree right here. All right, still all right, so you could hear my little rooster, then you could hear another rooster off toward the east of us here, off in the distance, then you could hear my big rooster, and that's at civil twilight. That's at 5:46 a.m. So the sun is going to appear in about another 24 minutes, and again, this is the morning before the 3rd month, 7th day. All right, sunrise 1 minute later. So this is the beginning of their 7th day here on that same Gregorian day, June 28th, Friday at 6:12 a.m. And again, you can see quite a bit more light. You can see these sprayed skies right here. These are not natural clouds. These are sprayed clouds in from what they crop dust us with. Now we got sunrise 3 minutes later, and we got a shot. I'm not hearing that very well, so I don't know if y'all heard it. That's why I kept silent there. These are, I believe there was daybirds there being heard. My volume's not up enough on my computer, so I pray that you're able to hear it. This is sunrise 6 minutes later at 6:17 a.m. And again, that's 6 minutes after the actual sunrise at 6:11. And I can see the luminous body of the sun at that point in time. So the beginning 7th day, 3rd month. Now we're going to go to our last Sabbath, which was a week ago on the Gregorian date of Saturday, June 29, 2024. We're going to look at all 3 twilights: astronomical, nautical, and civil. Here we go. All right, so astronomical twilight here. Again, I had to enhance the light on my camera to be able to get that much light there. But as you can see, this is approximately where the sun's coming up. But again, I'm telling you, there's a larger city so I don't know how much of this is artificial light and how much of it is of the sun. So maybe one day I'll get you some information on that in another video. But right now, this was what was considered astronomical twilight here in my area. Astronomical twilight, there's Jupiter in that same quadrant of the sky. You can see Jupiter coming up in that same area. Again, I enhanced the video quite substantially here. All right, astronomical twilight, just to show you on my sky view out where Jupiter was. And as you can see, the objects on that sky view app are quite a bit larger than what they actually are in the sky, but this helps you locate the things in the sky. So it's not to scale, guys. All right, so we got astronomical twilight of the moon here at 4:36 a.m. And there's that tree I was talking about. So this moon has been moving each morning. Every morning I got up, it was in a more easterly quadrant. So it's moving more over toward the east, toward the sun. So it's eventually the sun's going to pass it up in its circuitry. Here in, it happened yesterday through the night into today. So the moon got passed up by the sun. So we'll start seeing a waxing moon now coming up. All right, astronomical twilight at 4:37. This is Vega. Vega was very easy to be seen at astronomical twilight. I just had to enhance it in my camera where you could see it better. Nautical twilight. There's the light from the sun off in the eastern, northeastern part of the sky. And here we got Jupiter in the nautical twilight at 5:10 a.m. And then Jupiter, again, you can see it's a little bit more above the horizon. That's why it looked higher up at nautical twilight. So astronomical twilight, it was lower, and then nautical, it was higher up in above our horizon. Nautical twilight of Vega at 5:12 a.m. So we got an astronomical twilight and a nautical twilight of Vega. And if I could have actually shown you a picture, I enhanced the video, my eyes could actually see at civil twilight, I could still see the star Vega, which is it's the 5th brightest star, not a planet. It's not considered a wandering star like Venus or Jupiter or Saturn or, you know, those things. This is a fixed star that goes on a regular circuit with all the other fixed stars. But it's the 5th brightest star out there, and even at nautical and even at civil twilight. I just could not share a photo of civil twilight because it just would not show up. I couldn't enhance the my camera on my phone enough to do that. But you can definitely go out for yourself and get to your civil twilight for your area, and I can guarantee you'll be able to see Vega, especially as it was more overhead. It was more clear to be able to see. And as you get further, if it's higher in your horizon, you can see the lights a lot easier than you can when they get lowered in your horizon. And that just to do with a lot of you're just looking further through atmosphere to be able to see them when they're lower to your horizon. All right, Jupiter at nautical twilight, 5:12 a.m. And nautical twilight at 5:13 a.m. Again, that workbench there, you can quite see the shadow quite substantially there, even with the enhanced camera there. Definitely with your naked eye, you can see it very well. Here's that over here, you got the compost drum, and then there's that pillow with those planter pots there, a planter pot right there, and they're casting off their shadow at 5:13 a.m. So this is less than an hour before the sun appears. And we got the moon at 5:13, and again, at nautical twilight, you see it's closer to that tree there. And I want to just share this. This was the moon. It's actually in Pisces. So Pisces is that 7th month constellation. So when the full moon is in the beginning of the 7th month happens, that moon is in Pisces. So I just wanted to share this to show you where it was on the 8th day Sabbath of the 3rd month. All right, so nautical twilight there at 5:14 a.m. Quite substantially still dark at that time. All right. And it's almost like you hear the whippoorwills between that nautical twilight, just during that nautical twilight time. When it becomes civil twilight, you don't hear them anymore. And I didn't even hear them I don't remember hearing them during astronomical twilight. So I believe my friend tells me as they're moving toward their roost, that's when they'll start making or when they get to their roost, they'll start making those calls at that time. So they do sound like they're stationary when they get to the roost, and they roost during the day and then they come out at night. And that's why my friend told me they call them nighthawks. We got civil twilight. This is the morning before the Sabbath began on the 8th day of the 3rd month at 5:45 a.m. As you can see, it's getting a little bit brighter there. It's still got some darkness there. You can see when you look out across the trees there, you can, the trees are darker. All right, civil twilight. And I don't know if you heard that. That was my cat rubbing up against my leg. Civil twilight at 5:46 a.m. There we got some clouds appearing off in the southeast, but you can still get a shot of the moon. And we got Captain Corndog greeting the Sabbath from last week. So there he is, at 6:12 a.m. Our sunrise began at 6:12, and hallelujah, that was our Sabbath beginning for last week. So Captain Corndog and myself were sitting there giving thanks for our Sabbath. And we got sunrise 1 minute later, and there's your moon off in the sky there. A bunch of sprayed skies, as you can see here. These are not natural skies. These are things that come out of them chemtrails now. But you got your moon there, and that's a far-away shot. Actually, that moon is less than 50%, and you can actually see it's less than 50% there. But I've got some shots here in a few minutes that you'll be able to take a look at. Close-ups, that is. Sunrise 5 minutes later. All right, I'm seeing the luminous body. I'm actually able to see the luminous body of the sun. So hallelujah, that was the 3rd month, 8th day, our Sabbath from last week at 6:17 a.m. And even 6 minutes later after sunrise, that same corner where I was showing my shadow before, because we had them sprayed clouds, you can see because of that, we no longer see a shadow. So we can't go by the brightness of the sun at times, or the moon at times, because of the clouds. The clouds can prevent it from being as bright as it normally is. So we just can't go by based off of that. We have to go based off of when the sun appears and when the moon appears, and that's the two witnesses that Tanya and I go by, and for our years we go by the stars. So anyway, that's where we stand at right now until I'm proven differently here. So a little bit more information. You can only see Venus just before sunrise. So just before sunrise. So Venus is considered a star. It is a wandering star, but it's considered a star. It's called a star in Scripture. So you can only see Venus just before sunrise, and that sunrise happens during right after civil twilight. So it's that last twilight period before the sun appears. So Genesis 1:16 says, "And Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars." Okay, so this is from the Scriptures 2009 version. So that lesser light being the moon, we're going to get substantiation in Psalms 136:9 here on the next slide, but it rules the night. So what's that rule mean? What's that come down to? And the stars with it. So, and the stars. So, are the stars still being visible in the night sky? Is that still part of the night? If they rule the night and the stars are still visible, is that not still part of the night? And we just saw that Venus is still visible up until sunrise. So, is it not night up until sunrise, until that greater light starts to rule the day? That's the questions we need to get answered here to know when our days begin. Psalms 136:9. We got the moon and the stars to rule by night, for his loving commitment is everlasting. So the moon and stars to rule by night. And as you saw with the empirical witnesses, we showed where the moon, even in civil twilight, actually cast a shadow off and was ruling when the sun was not casting a shadow. Even at civil twilight, the sun in the morning, civil twilight in the morning, the sun is not casting a shadow at all. But the moon, if it's above the horizon, even on the 8th Sabbath day, the 8th day Sabbath day, less than 50% being illuminated, is still able to cast a shadow even in civil twilight. So we need to pay attention to our empirical witnesses. So does our day begin like this, or is our day like this? Morning, day, evening, night? I don't believe so. And I base that off Genesis 1:5 and 5 other witnesses in Genesis 1, where it says, "And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning one day." So he worked during the day, correct? So he worked during the light of the day, okay? And then it became evening, and there came to be a morning. So I believe morning is the last part of the day, and that's what my understanding to this point. I have yet to sway from that over the last several years that I've been looking into this. And if anybody can show me any empirical witnesses or any scriptural witnesses different than that, I'll be glad to look at them. But morning is the last part of the day. And I understand that now, today, we think tomorrow is has a morning time to it, but we need to look at that. We're going to do some scriptural studies, and we're going to look at words when we do the scriptural studies of different words used for the next day or for the morning. So anyway, that's going to be on some of these other parts coming up. And our next part's going to be talking about the structure of the day. You know, how's the structure of the day based? Is it morning begins our day, or is the morning end our day? So this is the way I see it. I see, when I look at Genesis 1:5, I say Yahuwah did all his work during the day, and then it became evening, and then it became morning. And of course, night just happens to be in between. The evening and the morning is what separates the day from the night, as he tells us in Scripture. So evening to morning. So this was after sunrise. This is zoomed in off my Canon camera. And as you can see, the moon is illuminated over 50%. So this is for most times, and I believe probably almost every time, our 7th day of the 3rd month, the moon is still going to be illuminated at over 50%. And then on our Sabbath day, the moon in the morning, after, or not in the morning, but after the sun appears, after the day begins, it's going to be less than 50% illuminated. So we're going in the video here on that, and I pray that this gives value to some of you here, if not all of you. And if you have any questions, I'm going to leave my contact information in the information box where you can get in touch with me. If there's anything that you want to share that can provide evidence for where you believe morning is in a day, please let me know. But I've been itching to do this 7-day empirical research and look at the morning witnesses for a long time, and it took a while to get it all put together, and I've been real busy with gardening and work and everything else, but hallelujah, I was able to put it together. So we're going in the video here, and we're just going to let our video shot of the moon on the last Sabbath day, 7 days ago, end it here.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah indeed.